brothers and sisters of Providence and our guests all around the world, God bless you, and welcome to another installment of Ask Pastor Williams Anything. This week we've got a great question. The question is, Pastor Williams, why weren't any of Jesus' disciples women? I know it's inappropriate to respond to a question with a question, but to your question, why weren't any of Jesus' disciples women? My question is, they weren't? You see, the way that I read my Bible is that Jesus' disciples indeed were women. He did have women as his disciples. Look at Mark chapter 16, just after his death and his subsequent resurrection, when they went to the tomb to embalm a dead hero. You hear about Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Salome all going together. They were with Jesus throughout his ministry. I would call them disciples. Jump forward to Romans chapter 16 and the long litany of names that the Apostle Paul provides of people who are faithful and committed to the ministry. In that list, you see a significant number of those names are women. And so am I to believe that in Romans 16, by the time the Apostle Paul really got in the thick of his ministry, women were leaders and women were ministering, but in Jesus' day, they weren't disciples? I think that there were disciples who followed Jesus, who received Jesus' teachings, and who took seriously the call on their lives to proclaim the gospel and propelled the movement forward. And I think those persons identified both as men and women. So why don't we typically hear about them in the Bible? Well, the first reason is patriarchy. I think that patriarchy probably shifts how some of the scriptures were written and some of the names that were used to ensure that it was male dominated. Patriarchy certainly shifted what was presented to people and what's historically been taught in the church. Any significant accomplishments of women, of their discipleship, of their leadership, of their teaching. We can look at the Catholic Church. They have completely and totally wiped that out except for the Virgin Mary. And so since you and I as Protestant Baptists, years later after the Protestant Reformation, come out of the Catholic Church, we still have that foundation and that underpinning that would think that all of the disciples were male. But Scripture makes it clear. Women were just as impactful in the movement of God's plan from Genesis all the way to Revelation as were men. So I do believe that many of Jesus' disciples were women, just like many of Jesus' disciples were men. Jesus' disciples were people who were willing to follow the teacher, people who were willing to suspend what made sense to the mind and truly walk by faith and not by sight. That type of behavior is not based on gender. That type of behavior is based on faithfulness. And I think a close reading of the Bible will show that faithfulness is no respecter of gender. Faithfulness occurred by women in Scripture and by men in Scripture. And isn't it good news that God provides faithfulness to all? I think that's an excellent question, my brothers and sisters. Jump in and look at Mark 16 for me. Jump in and look at Romans 16. And then if you have further questions, come on, let's talk about it. And let's really work together to bring the equality of the genders together so that we all can submit to who we're supposed to submit to, which is God, our Creator. Excellent question. Keep them coming. Ask Pastor Williams anything. We love hearing, researching, and responding to your questions. We think these are great. Keep them coming. We love you. This is Providence Missionary Baptist Church. God bless you.